start by you introducing yourself.
Hey, Janice, it's lovely to be here. So my name is Andy Champion. I am SVP of the international business at Sixth Sense. What's relevant for people to know? I've been doing this for a while. I've been in sales leadership for, I joke, it's a little bit more than a year. It's actually 26 years. As an individual contributor, as a first-line manager, and then more senior roles recently. Most of my time has been spent in sales technology and marketing technology. I did have some time with Oracle. I had some time with DocuSign. But a lot of my experience comes from working with companies that are pre-IPO, going through IPO. I've had the pleasure of doing that twice now. So it's think high growth, think SaaS, think tech, think Europe, Middle East, Africa, and more recently APAC. And that's kind of where I slot in.
Oh, well, it's a big slot that you've got there, isn't it? Certainly a big remit, but many years of experience, so you're more than able to fulfill it. So we're talking about AI, and actually this was your suggestion as a really great subject. It's something that you're coming across, your customers are asking you about all the time. So it'd be really good to have a discussion and see how it's impacting sales leaders, CROs, CEOs, around the world, because it is very much a global issue, isn't it?
Yeah, it's impacting all of us, right? But in our work lives, but also in our home lives, and often in areas that we may not appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about how it is revolutionizing the go-to-market strategy in particular.
So whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a first line manager or a more senior individual, generative AI is impacting your entire sales process, whether you understand it or not. And the reality is that it's getting to a stage where, in some areas, it's starting to convey and provide a competitive advantage. So, for example, those people that are leveraging AI perhaps to help with generating pipeline, progressing pipeline, identifying where deals are stuck, right? If you think about the CRO, she or he is probably looking across hundreds of deals or certainly tens of deals. And you can't be in every meeting with every individual. How can you use technology to understand where your deals are good and where those best practices that we all like to see, like multi-threading, getting to people with authority, where is that happening? And where perhaps are you seeing deals where the topic of pricing or a certain competitor is over-indexing against the norm? And the reality is that technology, AI, can start to identify that, and there are many providers in each space. So that's from a deal strategy point of view, from a forecasting point of view, even to the stage where before organizations come into your pipeline, you can be using technology to identify those accounts that are showing intent, that are showing some interest in whatever your solution might do, versus those that are perhaps not actively looking or not actively getting information. And I remember I first came across Challenger back in, I think, about 2008, which kind of dates me. And one of the things that stuck with me, and somebody will correct me if I get this fact wrong, but it was something like 54, 56% of the decision is made before first contact with the vendor. Now, that's interesting, and I think probably that's increased. Here's a more interesting stat. We have just completed a study of buyer engagement, and 89% of the time, the vendor that was in contact first with the purchasing organization won the deal. 89% of the time. That's across industries, and that's from sort of SMB mid-market through to enterprise and stat. It's probably a stat, it's probably something we all know within our gut, but the research actually bears this out. If you can get in early and you can set the agenda, you disproportionately increase your opportunity to win, certainly from a B2B sales point of view.
I think this is really interesting. You've covered so many things that we can delve into a bit more. I mean, you were talking about optimizing the pricing strategies, and how AI is really helping forecasting demand, but also understanding where your sweet spot is, where you should be spending your time, and then kind of moving on to talk about the technology, and how that's kind of helping us to refine, our whole kind of business thinking, really, and mindset, isn't it?
Absolutely. And look, I think it's always helpful when we're in conversations like this to try and give a few practical hints and tips. So hint or tip number one is all of this is only as good as the data, right? If you think about it, it's really a bunch of algorithms right now looking at a bunch of data. And so, my first tip is always, always, always sense check what the AI is telling you. A lot of the time it provides fantastic information, but give it the sniff test. Does that actually stack up? Because, if your data is erroneous or you haven't asked quite the right prompt, sometimes it comes up with some odd suggestions. So the first test is, use your nose.
If it smells like a fish, it's a fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really love that. Sense check it. But then it's a real challenge as well, because AI is, and generative AI moves faster, and in some ways can be more intelligent. They can, it's there to spot the opportunities for you, to help you to refine where you should be putting your energies. So if it's leading you in a direction that you probably wouldn't have gone on your own, using your own abilities, then how do you know to do that sniff test, really? Because you need to kind of trust it's taken you somewhere where you wouldn't normally go. But how do you know that where it's taken you is a step too far, or really it's in the wrong direction? How do you really get a sense of how to manage AI information that's coming back at you?
You and I have spoken before, and one of the things I spoke about last time we were talking about people, and I said one of the three things that I always look for when I'm having a conversation with somebody in a hiring situation is curiosity, right? I have found over time that if somebody is not innately curious and they're in a sales role, for the organizations that I've worked with, that's a red flag. And so I would take that concept and I would apply it to AI. At the end of the day, the information that is being provided to you from generative AI is just another data point. It's just another data point. And when you're making decisions, often you want more than one data point. So it has to be whatever, for example, if using something like a gong, you're using their technology, and one of the prompts or one of the AI suggestions is pricing is coming up a lot in this conversation. You're going to want to probably go in and listen to that particular snippet or the snippets when it comes up for the wider context. You're probably going to want to talk to the salesperson that's involved and maybe their manager. And if you're in my game, you're also going to talk to the solutions consultant, right? The solutions consultant who's selling alongside the salesperson, for me, has always been a fantastic source of information. So it's about taking multiple pieces of information and understanding that AI is not yet at a stage where it is beyond human intelligence. It will probably get there at some point, probably in my lifetime. But right now, it accelerates the information that I have available to me, and I take it as a further source of information. And then I go and explore that with myself, with my own experience, my own knowledge. I sound check or sense check that with the people around me. because I want multiple data points. I want to be able to, if for those people that have ever done orienteering, you want to triangulate, and to triangulate accurately to know where you are, you need at least 2 and ideally 3 different data points to help you really understand. And AI is no different.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So, enhancing deal strategies, AI empowered tools assist salespeople in qualifying leads and more effectively analyzing customer data and behavior patterns. You mentioned this before, but in terms of enhancing deal strategies, what other areas is AI enabling sales?
So, as a salesperson, one of the things I want to be able to do is to invest my time with those organizations that have the greatest propensity to buy. So when we think about top of funnel, for an enterprise, B2B enterprise salesperson, they may have anywhere between, and this will vary dramatically by business, but you might have 30 accounts, you might have 50 accounts, you may have more. Now, the reality is not all of those organizations are going to be in market for what you do at any single point in time. So there are technologies out there in the marketplace that can help you look at the dark funnel. What organizations are researching topics that would indicate that they have a greater propensity to buy what you sell? If you sell widgets and somebody is looking for widgets, you might want to try and talk to them, because 89% of the time, if you get in there first and you have the right widget, you're probably going to do quite well. So I think, from a pipeline perspective, being able to look at that anonymous activity that is not happening necessarily on your own website, but could be, and then using that to help inform what you do every single day, can help you become more efficient. But that's just at the top of the funnel. The mid funnel stuff we talked about before, and there are other technologies that other than Gong, that will do this, but we're a user of Gong at Sixtense. And one of the things that I will do is to use its AI to understand what are the topics of conversation that are taking place during every single deal. I literally cannot be in every single meeting that my salespeople have every single week. Neither can my first line managers. But what we can do is we can use the technology to understand, are these deals broadly on track? Are they trending in the right direction? Do we have a good balance of the salesperson talking versus the prospective customer talking? Are we typically seeing certain phrases come up that would indicate that we're having value-based conversations? What competitors are coming up, and how does that inform our strategy? So, right from that very, very top of the funnel, almost the pre-funnel, before you're figuring out where in your 50 accounts you're going to spend your time, all the way through to the conversations that you're having live in the deals every day, there are different technologies that are using generative AI to help people. And then for first line managers, second line managers, I'm a massive believer that we only ever deliver results through our people. So in the organizations that I work in, I want to see a people-based, a people-first culture. And there are technologies in the enablement space that can listen to those same meetings that I just talked about and start to identify areas where one individual may need a certain type of coaching on certain topics than a different individual. One individual might stumble a little bit when a competitor comes up. Another individual might be less comfortable having pricing-based commercial conversations. Another individual might be great at those two things, but a little bit weaker on qualification and discovery. And using tools like, for example, a HighSpot, you can look at those call recordings and then come up with personalized enablement and training programs, which, if you then roll that forward for those organizations that do broad-based accreditation of their sales teams, you're then in a world where very soon each individual is going to be accredited slightly differently from the next. Because Janice, if you're showing a fantastic model behavior on negotiation, I'm not going to take you out of the field to have you spend time on negotiation. What I am going to focus on is the areas where perhaps you do need a little bit of help, or where you're not quite modeling the behavior that we'd like to see. So you've got top of funnel, you've got middle of funnel, and then you've got people-based training. And generative AI is helping in every single part of that.
I love that kind of more personalized assessment and of individuals, and then focusing on the areas that are going to make them even stronger rather than focusing on weaknesses. There is an argument that we're eventually creating robots, in that everyone else, you have a model of success and you're trying to align everybody up to that. So on one side, it's fantastic. You're treating people as individuals and really understanding where their gaps are in order to be at their optimum in that market for that customer. And then the other side is, if everyone is developed, then everyone is the same. And everyone, all that the individual personality and nuances is eroded out of the conversation. So how do you feel about those two, opposing thoughts?
I think, sorry, I was just distracted by my background, and just want to call out, that isn't really my background. It's cool right there, and it's starting to get a bit, but I think,
you were fooling yourself that you're going to be diving into the pool afterwards.
I'm talking myself into wherever that lovely spot is. Anyway, I think anything taken to excess can get to a point where it becomes dangerous. Alcohol, clearly, even exercise, right? There comes a point at which you can start to overtrain. And as I've said before, I think generative AI is still in a place where it is only as good as the data that goes into it. And I don't think necessarily that we are in a world where we have to go down the path where everybody is the same. And I think there are many reasons for that. Most people don't like to be sold to. We want to have our buying conversation enhanced and assisted by salespeople, but ultimately it's our buying decision that we want facilitated. We don't want to be sold to. We also, I think, have unique situations, and that's on both sides of this commercial table. And a big part of that is the human connectivity. And if we do allow ourselves to go down a road where there is one way of doing things and one way only, I think we are missing out on the rich diversity of those conversations. And ultimately, I think one of the things that will stop us doing that is that type of behavior, that type of approach would start to come through in the win rates. Because ultimately, if we're not having those individualized conversations, if we're not having a bit of fun, me joking about that pool in the background, it's a bit of fun, right? We want that. And I hope the people listening to that want to know that you and I are both humans. And so I do think we're quite a long way off that. I think ultimately, the people that will continue to succeed are embedding technology within their world to help make it better, but they are not becoming slaves to that technology. And I think for us as salespeople, the reality is that if we went into that world where everybody said the same thing in exactly the same way, gave the same examples, I think that would show up in things like win rates. And I think we'd rapidly then need to change our behavior. And here's the final thought, actually. Just because something works today doesn't mean that it will work tomorrow or the next week or the month after that. A very good friend of mine, Roderick Jefferson, said there is no one new norm. There's just the next norm. And so as we adjust to the new norm, at some point we have to go on beyond that to the next norm and the next one after that. And so I think this natural evolution will also require us to continue to innovate and continue to evolve. And I think humanity at its core will use AI, I hope, to improve our lives, not to take over our lives.
Do you have any fear? There is an awful lot of fear about the subject of AI. And I remember, was it 2014, 15? There was all of this information about how the internet, the AI, new technology means that the sales force is going to be reduced down to, a small amount. It's threatening the job of the salesperson. And I think that's gone away now because there's so much information and data. You've read them all at that time that I'm not seeing that so much anymore. Nevertheless, people are fearful of change and worried about what's coming next and losing control. So from a daily impact, how is it affecting salespeople, and whether you are feeling stressed or they're stressed by these new changes?
I think the first thing I'd say is it's a natural human reaction to fear the unknown, or to be nervous of the unknown, or to be curious about the very, very natural reactions. But honestly, if you're not already taking advantage of some of these technologies that are out there to help you as an individual salesperson, or to help you as, in your role at leading sales team, other people are. And you might get away with that today, but there will come a tomorrow where your competitors are leveraging this technology to outpace you. If we go back to the example that I talked about in the enablement space, they can use that technology to coach their individuals to be better at what they do. The art of selling, the art and the science. They may use technologies to better invest their marketing resources onto those accounts that are showing propensity to buy. And if you're not doing that, and you're a CMO in a business, number of CMOs that I've spoken to in my career that said, Janice, 50%, well, they didn't say Janice, they said Andy, but 50% of my marketing budget is working. I just don't know which 50%. Now, imagine if you could take that 50 to 60 to 65 to 70, and your competitor is still stuck in the 50-50 split. At some point, you are going to outpace them. So I think that one of the best ways, to control the future as an individual is to take ownership of that future, to start to embrace some of these technologies. And something as simple as ChatGPT, one of the easiest ways to start is to go in and is to play and to perhaps use it for maybe internal communications to help you improve the clarity of your message. And it's a fairly safe environment. And then as a second step, as you get more familiar, you might use that same technology to help you with your account research. I'm working with an individual at the moment that has actually trained generative AI to help them at scale understand potential accounts, understand the markets in which they work, understand what's going on in their business, understand their competitive landscape, take that into then all the way through into starting to provide almost like conversation leads. And one of the technologies that we have is that you can then take that into a conversational email engine. And, you know, if you think about things like an outreach, if you think about things like a sales loft and Groove, they're fantastic technologies. They've almost been the technology of the last few years, particularly if you're in demand generation, you're a BDR, right? You're just not going to go and join a company unless they've got a tool like that. But, you know, a lot of those tools, if you think about where they came from, they were automating the process of sending an email, of driving a conversation. Fewer tools have been focused on what is the content within that? What is the specific message that you're sending out? And of course, you can now use conversational email tools like the one we have to actually help you do that. So it's an example of, you could start small with learning, you know, using AI to help you with your internal communications, but then start as you get more comfortable to bring that same technology into your account research, into your outreach, into understanding, hey, help me understand and summarize the latest annual report from XYZ company. What are the competitive pressures that this industry is seeking over that industry? And, you know, I think the concept fundamentally of something like how we interact now with Google or other search engines, where you get a list of 10, 15 hyperlinks, fundamentally, I think that world of search is going to change. And it's for the same for us as individuals in the sales world. So I would say take ownership of that. And if you're not leveraging that, understand that you have a choice to make. But those that are starting to leverage it, I think probably will outpace over time those that decide not to embrace it. Henry Ford, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have told me a faster horse.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You've got a fan here. Joshua James Janice is bigging you up. I actually think they want to join you in that swimming pool. I think that's what it's all about.
Well, I'm not seeing any messages, so if there are questions coming up from people, any comments, then please fire them my way.
Yeah, definitely, you know, connect, because we're wrapping up now. Connect with myself and Andy. Andy's got lots of experience, and we've got another live on the 13th of June, I think it is. Oh no, it's not June, it's May. Another live booked in, so I'll be promoting that soon. I just want to let listeners know, not only to Joshua's there again. Been years since seeing Andy. He's seen you now with your swimming pool, which is fantastic.
I have a lot of very good friends still at DocuSign.
So yes, make sure, Joshua, you join us again and you can continue the conversation, see what background Andy's got then. So my next live is on the 1st of May, and it is with Laurie Richardson. We'll be on the 1st of May, same time, 5 to 5:30, and we'll be talking about why some assessments can improve sales productivity, not all. So Parnell Foster Nash has also said, thank you very much, Andy, for all of your knowledge and insights. It's certainly been interesting. Everyone's coming through now. Hi, Andy. You've got such a big fan base, Andy. So on LinkedIn, there's all the comments, so you can go in there and thanks, Alicia, and have a look at them, Andy. But, you know, certainly transforming the power of AI is undeniable, really important. And I really like your idea of just dive in, start small with ChatGPT, and, you know, use that to refine your emails and grow from there. You know, it's certainly reshaping the environment of sales, making us more personalization and agility and the efficiency from an everyday tasks that we need to do into organizational and what we talked about before, mindset change. So thank you so much, Andy, for all your knowledge and experience that you've shared here. Really enjoyed it, as always. For those of you that want to hear more from Andy, I recently interviewed him on Scale Your Sales podcast, and we talked a lot about the people development there as well. So there's so much more that we can talk about. But also make sure you join us on the 13th of May for our next live. So thank you so much, all of you, for your comments and joining us. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, Andy, for being our guest and our man of mystery that has a pool in the background, and for all of your fantastic insights. And what a great subject as well.
My pleasure. I hope it stimulated people to embrace, to go, to learn, because ultimately I think it really can make a dramatic impact to your performance, whether you're an individual contributor or a manager looking after people. The opportunity is huge.
Thank you.